Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to our Character Spotlight series for Pokémon Unite. It's been a couple of weeks since we looked at this game, and I think the hype's died off a little bit, but I still think that it's something that's kind of cool and interesting to talk about, and it's a little easier on my voice where I'm still trying to recover from the last couple of days of being sick. So we should hopefully get back into the Smash Tournament videos in the next couple of weeks. I'm also moving in the next couple of weeks, so we're gonna have to be a little bit lighter on the video loads there as well. So we'll just kind of see how things work out. But we're gonna jump back into this series for today at the very least. And we've been going through the list of playable characters in a somewhat chronological order based off of the ones that I have. And since I play this game for fun, I don't have everything unlocked, and I'm not willing to spend real life money on getting everything to that point. So let's jump into the next character on this list, which just so happens to be Slowbro. And Slowbro fits into the ranged defender type character archetype, which we haven't really looked at. I mean, we have basically looked at attackers exclusively. I think Crustle maybe is the only other one that fits the defender archetype, but even then, he still hits very hard and can do quite well on the offensive side of things depending on how you build out his kit. But Slowbro very much is more defensive and works a lot better if he is facilitating a charge instead of leading it. But there's still things you need to know about his moveset if you want to have any degree of success when using this character. So let's have a look at the moves that Slowbro has and which things that I think are personally more effective with this particular character. So Slowbro's first ability is the water gun, where water will be shot forcefully in the direction that Slowbro's facing. He tends to hone in on opponents when using this anyway. But this will decrease the opponent's movement speed for a short time after receiving the hit. Additionally, you can charge up this attack by holding down the button for a few seconds, which increases the area of effect and the damage that the move deals, and it's worth holding onto for a second or two in order to get that higher range of damage. But once you reach level 4, there's one of two different moves that you can opt for. You can either opt for Scald, which is basically the same as Water Gun, where it shoots hot water, dealing damage to the opposing Pokemon and creating steam. The opposing Pokemon that's in the steam area of effect are left with a burn and have their movement speed decreased for a short time, and the vapor area of effect is increased upon being ranked up. And though this ability does have a shorter time frame for recharging, I do think that the better move between the two is actually Surf. This has Slowbro charging forward on a wave, dealing damage to the Pokemon in the area of effect and throws them. And there's 3 different hits of this Surf attack, the primary one that you ride on, and then 2 additional waves that come in after the fact. And each of them deal damage to the opposing Pokemon and decreases their movement speed. It even kind of locks them in place as they're being hit by those different waves. So certainly something that's noteworthy to see there. And upon upgrading this ability at a later level, you have the second and third waves becoming larger and also throwing the opposing Pokemon. So a very powerful move there, and it really helps for some more crowd control and follow-ups from not only yourself, but other members of your team as well. The second ability that Slowbro possesses is Slack Off, and this is a decent ability if you need to recover health in the middle of a fight, but it's ultimately not super great because it leaves Slowbro in a position where he is incapable of acting or defending himself. But if you do get woken up in the middle of your rest, you continue to restore that HP recovery for the same amount of duration, but the increase will be at a reduced potency. So honestly, it's better to try and use this if you're in a really bad spot and have the ability to retreat back to one of your goalpost areas where you can passively regenerate more health on top of the benefit coming off of the Slack Off ability. But once you reach level 6, you can opt for one of 2 different abilities. The default is Amnesia, which allows the user to nullify some of the damage that it receives before the damage takes effect, and we'll talk a little bit about that with the ability, or the passive ability that Slowbro has here in just a brief moment. But once that is used, the user becomes immune to hindrances and gains increased defense. So this will also allow you to increase the damage dealt by Scald or Surf if you use that after this ability has been used. And if you, or when you level up this move, which takes place at a very, very high level, you can have an increase to the special attack that's dealt by the move, or by your moves as well. But I don't think that this is particularly great. You can get some utility out of it for sure, and certainly stave off going down in a pinch. But the one that I think is honestly a little bit better is Telekinesis. And this will cause the targeted opposing Pokemon to float with psychic power, and if you use the ability again, you can pull that opponent closer to you. Now, the reason I think that this one works better is especially if you're working in tandem with opponents, or not opponents, but team members that have ranged type attacks, they can continue to attack into your opponent while they are left in a very vulnerable state. And even if they're not the ranged type attackers, if you do pull them in closer to you, then that leaves them in a very dangerous position where they are very susceptible to follow-up from multiple of members of your team, especially if they are nearby you when you use that. And if you upgrade this move, or when you upgrade this move, it has an increase to the move's firing speed and range, which just allows you to pull those opponents back in from a further area away. Now, we mentioned a little bit with Amnesia that you can nullify some of the damage that you've taken before the damage hindrance takes a place, and that has to do with Slowbro's ability, which is Oblivious. This allows Slowbro to have kind of a pool of health that he can dip back into when landing an ability, or in the case of using Amnesia, you can recover all of that health that hasn't fully waned off of the character. You can also benefit from decreasing your opposing Pokemon, your opposing opponent's special defense for a short time when landing an ability, which is kind of useful as well. Now, the Unite move is Slow Beam, and this has the user stare at the opposing Pokemon and attack continuously. This deals constant damage to the target, as well as binds it in place and completely keeps it from doing anything else. This will grant a substantial amount of shielding to Slowbro, and it makes the user, or Slowbro, immune to hindrances while the move is being used, which is quite nice as well. So definitely a lot of utility out of this move. It's not the most powerful of the Unite moves in the cast, but it is really well for taking out or rendering it useless, perhaps the big damage dealer from your opponents. So not a ability that you want to overlook at all. And then of course, the basic attack sequence is the same as every other character, with the noteworthy characteristic for Slowbro being that he does have a decent amount of range with his water sport type attacks. But that's really everything that we needed to go over in terms of how Slowbro behaves, and now you know what we have to do. We need to jump into a ranked match and go ahead and use Slowbro to hopefully win a round. So for Slowbro, I do think that it's useful to have the Leftovers Rocky Helmet Eos cookie lineup, which is fairly straightforward. And for the battle item, there's not really one that I have a really strong feeling about, but I do feel like the eject button would work quite well for Slowbro, because it will allow him, as he's considerably slower than most of his opponents, it will allow him to retreat away from incoming damage. And sometimes that's what you need, especially with a Slowpoke within the cast.
Ready, go!
Okay, here we are in our ranked match here. Let's go ahead and make our way in towards the center. I do feel like Lillipup is a really good target to use, because there's this considerable amount of health that, or experience that you can get off of this character. And then once Ludicolo comes in, we'll go ahead and aggro him, and then move out of the way of his own water beam, or water pump type move. And then we'll move out of the way of that again, and this one should just about finish him off. There we are. Now we've got access to our slack off ability, which I honestly only ever use if I'm in a real considerable pinch, which isn't very frequently because, again, I don't like jumping into the middle of a fray with opponents because that's not really what Slowbro excels at. Let's see, we don't have the Combi and the Vespiquens coming in here yet, but now we've got the option to opt for an ability. I do like Surf, as I mentioned a little bit in the introduction, so we'll go ahead and opt for that. And then we'll go ahead and see if we can get our Zorora pal here to help us with these takedowns. And that Snorlax is retreating because he really doesn't have any sort of backup here that can do anything. And we're just going to want to retreat a little bit further away here from him so we don't end up taking unnecessary amounts of damage. We can probably help our Zorora buddy here as well once we have Rotom show up here at the top. And I kind of wanted the kill there, but it looks like he ended up with it, which is fine. We're very close to level 6, which will give us access to telekinesis. We'll go ahead and score there, and that will give us access to telekinesis. And this is where the use of telekinesis doesn't work as well if I'm going to continue to hang around with Zorora, because I mean, I just don't have he doesn't have the ability to attack into Snorlax or other opponents here if I do use that, because he's a melee-based attacker. Which isn't the end of the world, but it's also not the greatest thing. Close in on this goal zone again and get some points scored there. And that actually took out the goal zone, which is really nice too. So we'll just attack into Rotom, and I expect that we're going to be fairly uncontested here, because I think most of the focus is actually being applied down on the lower paths. And then we'll just go ahead and follow and protect Rotom down to this goal zone. And I don't have any points to score. Well, I do now because of that Haunter that I took out. The Zorora did a really good job of wearing him down, though. So I can't, take all of the credit for that. Let's go ahead and move in a little closer on. We're going to retreat because I was a little bit outclassed there. And I don't have a whole lot of use for the eject button, but in moments where I was double teamed there, it was certainly the wisest move to make. And Surf just deals a lot of area effect type damage, and once we have that up to Surf Plus, that's really going to bolster the amount of damage that we can deal to the team members or the opponents that we're attacking into, I suppose. And we've really got to close in on this Snorlax. Oh, he used his barrier right as we went for the telekinesis there, which is not what we wanted to have happen. Ooh, that was a really nice combo attack there. Ooh, let's go ahead and get this in. And yeah, we were going down there either way. which isn't great, but we definitely put the hurt on that Cinderace, which was really, really nice to see. We don't want to leave Zorora hanging, so let's go ahead and super jump back up here, get up to help him out as quickly as we can. Ooh, nice, he went in and got the quick clear against the Rotom, and it looks like they're all focusing here on the top. Easy scores there. Another goal zone goes down with the help of the Rotom there. We'll back up and grab a couple of these stray points that were just kind of laying around. Looks like we've got our Charizard that's come up from the bottom path to help us out a fair amount. We'll go ahead and get the Surf up going here. And we missed our Telekinesis, which isn't the end of the world. But it certainly would have helped to have landed that in order to finish out some of those opposing members there. We're really putting the hurt on these guys, though. Yeah, they've got all of their goal zones destroyed before... We're a full minute away from Zapdos being here, so they're struggling really bad. And did you see the use of that Surf? It just rendered the... It rendered the Alolan Ninetales completely useless with the 3 different hits of those waves. We dealt a lot of damage to them, and there was just nothing else that they could do. Let's grab this point here. And then I think it's about time for us to just kind of hide in a bush until Zapdos shows up. Because I do feel like that's a decent strategy to use, is just kind of lay in wait. Because you know that they're going to try pushing for this. They're probably not going to be able to score enough points to logistically ever win something. But we can shut down any attempts that they try and make with the defensive oriented abilities that we have available to us. So let's see. Looks like the Zorora's coming in. The Snorlax is going to try and put a hurt or a couple hits on this Zapdos. Or he's going to go for a score up in the top corner. It's really not going to make that big of a difference. They finally got one of our goal zones down. Okay, we'll just go ahead and immobilize the Snorlax here. And yeah, Snorlax was dead. There's no reason for us to focus in on this Zapdos at this point, because it's not going to get us anything more than what we've already accomplished. So we're probably just going to continue to discourage these other team members from, or these other opponents from getting anything meaningful in here. Yeah, the Gengar is going to go down here. Oh, we got swamped there, which wasn't great. And that's probably an area where the Amnesia ability would have been better, because we could have healed back all of that damage we did end up taking. But there's just no way that they're going to recuperate enough points here in the closing 20 seconds or whatever. And even this Cinderace that's up here at the top isn't going to be able to score enough points to break down our goal zone. And the Eldegoss is going up there to put some of the defense on as well.
3, 2, 1, goal!
Yeah, there was nothing that they were going to be able to do to claw back out that victory. But that's just kind of some of the things that you've got to keep in mind when using someone like Slowbro, is you're not going to end up winning the MVP of the match, because there's just other members of your team that are going to deal a lot more damage. But as a supporting role, you can have a very impactful influence here. You'll see that I've got at least one vote probably from the Zorora that's congratulating me for being a team player here. So honestly, lots of really good stuff. And if you haven't tried Slowbro, I do think that he's at least worth a shot of having somebody else in your repertoire that you can use. But that's going to be everything for today. I'm going to go rest my voice a little bit more, so hopefully I sound like a normal human being in the next day or two. And I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.